welcome to another Running on Air video. Today I'll be looking at Synthesizer V, a vocal synthesizer by Japanese music tech company Dreamtonics. I've been experimenting with robotic voices since the mid-90s, but I never expected to see software that would effectively do singing. So in this video I'll be looking into how you use this software, as well as assessing the results. But before I get into that, if you like these sorts of videos and would like to see more, please help support the channel by dropping a like and consider subscribing for future content. You can also help me by checking out my tracks, finding something you like, and consider buying a copy. You can find links to my tracks at runningonair.com. I'd also like to say thank you to all those that have already done that. It really makes doing these videos worthwhile. So thanks again. So, let's get on with it. So this is the Dreamtonics website. This shows all the information about Synthesizer V Studio. So it looks a bit like a DAW, it also looks a bit like Melodyne, works in a similar way sometimes. The interface is reasonably good, but as I'll show you later on, there's a few things which are a little confusing. Live rendering. This is quite good actually. It does actually render what you're doing very quickly, so it doesn't interfere with the workflow. There's some information here about how the synthesis engine works, which is essentially a combination of AI and samples, which sort of makes sense. And then some information about tuning. If you're really techie, you could get into scripting as well, which I guess would enable you to do perhaps more automation and things like that. I don't know. So you've got a basic edition and a professional edition. The professional edition you have to pay for, but you can't buy it on this site. You actually have to go to a third party. But if you want the free version, then that's not a problem. You can just download it here and that's the end of it. What was that, 41 meg? And it runs on Mac OS and Linux as well. So now the important thing to remember here is just downloading the studio is not enough. You also have to download the voice packs. They can be found under this very tiny little link here. This is what's available, at least in terms of the free voice packs. Now it's worth mentioning that although the software is free, commercial usage is not free. If you actually want to use this in a track you're going to sell, then you need to get a license. So that's a bit unfortunate, but it may well be worth it. Now the thing that's interesting, perhaps from a Western point of view, is this product is aimed very much at the East Asian market, specifically Japan and China. In actual fact, there's only one English voice, and that hasn't been fully completed yet either. It's only in a sort of demo mode. I suspect that it will end up being a paid option at some stage. So in actual fact, this could end up being relatively expensive depending on what you want to do. But in terms of just using it and trying it out, it's free, so it's certainly worth looking at. Anyway, if you're only interested in the English version, that's the Eleanor Lite install. Let's go back to the website because I want to show you the other voices. I think what's really interesting about this is that the first three here are Japanese voices, and you've got the one lone English one which isn't complete. All of these other ones are, and then all of these are Chinese. One of the things that I think would be quite an interesting challenge would be to try and get some of the Japanese and Chinese voices to sing English. And you should be able to do that by changing the phonetics. If you spell everything out phonetically, but that could be a lot of work. So, you know, it may not be worth it. Each one of these voices has a little biography. First English voice for Synthesizer V. Despite being an epitome of the latest technology, Eleanor keeps an interest in antiques. She is honest, endeavouring with an unwavering sense of morality. So you could introduce her to your parents and there wouldn't be a problem. The others, I don't know, maybe they're slightly more badly behaved. Maybe it's time to actually start looking at the product itself. So this is what you get when you open up the software. So you've got this top section which is for you to organize your work. You can work on a voice track with a backing track, for instance, or just work on the voice on your own, but this is where you organize that. You can also have more than one voice as well. So I'm going to import the voice first, so it's literally just drag it across. So I'm just going to go create a new track, and then it's asking me which MIDI track or which MIDI channel to import. And then what happens is I get all my notes in this area, which is where I can edit, change things, add lyrics, that sort of thing. By default you just get la 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 la. Now let's play that. Okay, so it's the wrong tempo. That's the first thing I've got to get sorted out. So I'll need to check my tempo markings. The other thing about that is it doesn't even really sound like a voice. The reason it sounds so plain and basic is because we haven't actually chosen a voice file yet. So over on this side we actually have a number of icons which give us access to certain things. The ones that we need to look at the moment then, because we don't actually have a voice file loaded, so that's the first thing we need to do. So current database track not set. I've only got Eleanor Forte, the English voice, on this. Now you'll notice everything sort of changed down here, so let's try that again. La 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 la. Okay, so you can see there's a significant difference there. Okay, we've suddenly got something that sounds like a voice. Now to change the tempo, it's this tiny little thing up here. That will fix it, but it's not the most noticeable thing. I mean, you've also got the time signature as well. Also, if I was to put something like 65.5, it just sets it to 65, like the nearest one. But if you open it up again, it does actually still say 65.5. So I think that's just a display issue. But personally, I would kind of make that a little bit more noticeable. That can be a little bit confusing. Anyway, in this case it is 66, so let's... The next thing I want then is really my backing track. Okay, so I've got my backing track. There, right. So let's play this, just see what we've got. La 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 la. Okay, that's fine. Now at this stage I've got my MIDI sorted out. There's no significant problems in the MIDI, but you could actually start dragging notes around here if you wanted to. And I've done that on another track as well, and that worked fine. So assuming that you actually need to do a little bit more work on the tune, or maybe you want to write something from scratch, then you can actually move things around as you'd pretty much expect. So let's assume that I actually want to change this. So I'm going to move that note up there. As you can see, it reworks it straight away. And let's make this one, say, a lot shorter. Something like that. Okay, now if I play it again. La 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 la. And it's completely different, as you can see. And it reworks that, re-renders that nice and quick, so that's really useful. Now, how to add lyrics. So if you select one of the notes and then you use Control A, or essentially you want to select absolutely everything, then what you can do is, if you go up to the modify and then insert lyrics, you suddenly have a rather large space for lyrics. Here's the lyrics, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy them all. I'm going to put them in here, select it all, and put it in.
dark moon hanging in the sky, whispering soft lies to me, but I know that.
So the problem I've got straight away here is that first words are just rushed out, because in the song there's actually more than one note per word, and the software doesn't know that. Why would it know that? So I now need to make some adjustments. What we can do is we can continue to work in this sheet here. Let's just, for fun, I'm just going to put like a whole load of minus signs in here. And you think, okay, well, why am I doing that? Well, let's just see what effect that has. If we go, okay.
Dark moon hang.
Now you can hear actually that the word dark has been extended. I'm extending the word to last over more than one note. And by the number of minus signs I put in, or the number of hyphens I put in, indicates how many notes I want to extend that over. We could see now that dark has been split over all of these notes. Right, so I'm just going to play what it should sound like.
Dark moon hanging in the sky, whispering soft.
Okay, so that's the way the lyrics should sound. Now, I still may want to make some changes, but I don't really want to be opening up the entire lyric sheet every time I do that. And it's simply a matter of clicking on the note block itself and then making your edits there. Let's say, for instance, that I want to do something with this sky note. So let's say I'm going to shorten that there, and I'm going to put in an extra note there and then fill it back in again. Now, what I need to do is I need to extend sky so it goes up to the second note and then comes back down to the third note. So I'm going to just put a minus there, and let's just hear that again.
In the sky.
So simple as that. But what if it was a two-syllable word? So let's say skylark is going to be the word. I want sky to extend, so it's going to be a minus there, but I want lark to be on the third note. So I'm going to delete that and put in a plus. Enter, and then it reworks it. Now you'll notice up here that you've got what looks like a misspelling of sky there and a misspelling of sky here. These are the phonetic pronunciations of the word. So let's play it again.
In the skylark.
Right, so that's how to do that. Now these phonetic spellings are quite interesting, because if you do have a word which is pronounced wrong, and to be honest, this has been, considering it's developed in Japan, it's actually very good. It's I've only found a couple of mispronunciations, which is not quite right, but overall it's been really good. But if you did need to do it, then what you need to do is work out what the phonetic spelling should be for the sound you want, and then you can type that in separately. Now it won't change the word that's underneath, so you'll still be able to understand what's there, understand what the word should be, but you can change the sound of it. Now I have no idea what the spellings, but let's say that's something. I don't know what that is.
Skylark, whispering soft.
Well, it seems to have changed the pronunciation, but not to anything useful. Now, if you've been fiddling around with this for quite a bit, you might think, well, what was the phonetic spelling if you wanted to put it back? You don't need to worry, just delete it, and it will then fill that in for you, the default phonetic spelling.
Skylark.
Now, what I wanted to do was to have a look at some of these buttons up here. But let's start with these first of all. Yeah, so if we turn it all off, all you can see is the notes, the words, and the phonetics, and that's it. If I put this on, you get to see the waveforms. And then if I put this on, you get to see the bits of the phonetics as they are pronounced. So exactly where the sound is going to be made. This one shows the pitched information, and this one shows the pitched information but with the more consonant sounds. Right, so that then brings us to the 4 buttons here. So this one allows you to draw additional notes, and this one allows you to select notes. Then you have these 2 different modes. So in this mode, let's put that on the selection mode for a minute. On this one with the bars, this allows you to move stuff about, whereas this one allows you to start fiddling with some of these curves.
Dark moon hanging in the sky.
So you can do a lot of pitch bend type things. So these 4 are for visibility. These 4 are for what you edit, whether you edit notes or whether you edit hit points. And then one's for selection and one's for creation. What would you do that? Right, so with this one, then you would actually be able to start drawing in all kinds of weird stuff. Whereas with this one, you would start editing it. See what that sounds like.
In the sky, whispering song.
Thank God for Control Z. Okay, so I've imported the full MIDI for this now, and all the lyrics are in and everything's in its right place. So so if we just randomly,
And you see right through me.
so everything's there and it's working fine. At this stage, we've got the default setting for the Eleanor Forte Lite voice pack. But there's quite a lot you can do to change the quality of the voice. So I've got the voice tab up there. First of all, the loudness is exactly what it says. There's nothing expressive about that. It's just pure volume, as simple as that. Tension's a very interesting one. I'm going to play this section here. So this is the chorus section.
Into the light, out of the night, I break in.
So if we go and put the tension down to the minimum value, this is what it sounds like.
Into the light, out of the night, I break.
Yeah, so it's much purer sounding. And then if we go in the other direction,
Into the light, out of the night, I break in.
yeah, so with that one, it's sort of clearer, but it's slightly harsher sounding, but it's good for actually being able to understand the lyrics better. And then of course we've got breathiness, which is, as you would expect,
Into the light, out of the night, I break in.
so it's interesting how the balance can be right on lots of the lyrics, but then in other places it's just too much. But that's something that can be tweaked on a note-by-note basis. Now the gender one is kind of interesting because to have that on a slider, it's a female voice. It's supposed to be a female voice, and yet there's a gender slider, and that does change things quite significantly. But let's go for the extremes on this first of all. So let's make it like ultra girl.
Into the light,
So it's kind of Munchkin.
out of the night, I break.
It's quite funny, really. And then if we go the other way,
Into the light,
think actually to a large extent it still sounds kind of female. Okay, so I've found that the voices that I liked the most were a little bit lower pitched. So,
Into the light, out of the night.
sounded slightly more realistic to me. Right, so these are really the default settings for the voice. So those are tonal qualities, but then there's also other things to do with the pitch. And it's really got to do with how notes move from one note to the next. So I'm going to again go for some of the extremes here.
Out of the night, I break it.
What it's doing is it's actually extending the amount of time it takes to slide from one note to another note. And it's also, the duration is based on whether it's on the left of the note or the right of the note. Again, it's a sort of portamento setting, essentially.
Into the light, out of the night, I break.
Put it down to 0.
Into the light, out of the night.
That's interesting. It really doesn't sound very human because you're not getting the slide, even though you may not be conscious of human voices sliding like that. Without it, it sounds really quite robotic. And now this depth is an interesting one. So this is really about going over. So if you're sliding from one note to another note, then there's a tendency to go too far and then come back. And that's what this does. So if I put that up, I put it up to really crazy.
Into the light, out of the night, I break.
Let's do the same on the right.
Into the light, out of the night.
Vibrato, again, I found 4.5 hertz in terms of the frequency. And then, of course, you've got the depth. I don't like a massively strong vibrato, so let's 0.5. This is like the attack on the vibrato. So it gradually comes in. That's kind of nice. I like that, actually. So you could get it to gradually come in, and you could also get it to gradually fade out, I would assume.
Into the light, out of the night, I break it. Into the...
Okay, that's not bad. Now, I mentioned earlier on that it is actually possible to edit things on a note-by-note basis, and that can be quite useful for when it doesn't quite go right. What we want to do, if we want to actually affect individual notes, then we can do that on this screen over here. Now, it's got a lot of the settings which are done in the general panel for the voice. You can see a lot of things are similar, so the pitches and stuff, but there's some additional functions as well. So let's get rid of the voice. There's more options on the vibrato. I'm not going to go into absolutely everything. The important thing to remember is this is only going to affect the notes which have been selected, if you do select more than one note, then not all of the options will be available. Certain things can be applied to more than one note and other things not so much. And this is particularly when it comes into the timing and the phonemes. So let's have a look at that. So I'm going to select this one word here, light. Down the bottom we've got a section for timing and phonemes. So everything's set to default at the moment. So let's just listen to that.
Into the light.
Okay, now I can change the settings of when the phonemes are pronounced just for that individual note. So first of all, we've got this offset, and I can make the whole thing happen earlier.
Into the light.
Or I can make it later, of course.
Into the light.
So that, I mean, that can be good just for adding a bit of emphasis, a bit of flexibility. But the other area which is useful, what you can do is you can change the emphasis for each individual phoneme. So let's go to an extremes on this one. So if I want to emphasize the L, for instance, because I don't feel that it's being pronounced for long enough, then I can make that up to 100% of the length. And maybe I feel that the I sound is too long, and I reduce it down, and maybe the T needs to be much more pronounced. So let's see what happens now.
Into the lights out of the night.
So you got a lot of flexibility there. I mean, you could spend hours just fiddling with this stuff, but if there's a particular thing that you want to do, this is an area, this is where you could do it. So the other thing is that you can also include automation lanes, and they'll automate a lot of the things that we've already seen. So let me just get rid of the note panel. You can get to the automation lanes here, and they're called parameter panel. And then here you can choose what it is you are changing. So if this one is going to edit, I'm going to go for loudness because I've got a particular example that I wanted to show.
The darkness sees right through me.
So in the default setting, that word right, the top note, is just massively overemphasized to a point of it being really quite grating. The obvious first thing to look at there is to get the level down. So that's why I've gone for the loudness option on this one. Each parameter it has its own tools here which are kind of similar to the ones above, and I was looking in the wrong place. So I need to draw something in. So I'm going to use this mode here. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I quite like that. So this one will do lines.
Is right through.
And then if I go to the edit mode, I can then move these around. So I can just nudge that up a bit. And nudge these along a bit as well. So just make it a little bit more like all of the other words.
Is right through me.
Okay, so that's a lot more like the sort of thing I want. Now obviously you could do that in the mix anyway. So perhaps what I should think about then would be to change the quality of the sound, because it's just a bit much on that word, and also I don't really like the vibrato very much on it. So maybe what I should do is if I go to the note, right, so now I can actually make some changes on the note. I'm finding the depth just is a little bit too much on that one, so let's see if we can get it down to say something like that.
Sees right through me.
Okay, so the other thing is I can add another automation lane, or parameter panel I should say, and this time I'm going to change the tension, and I'm going to edit it in the same way. So I'm going to do that. So let's see what that sounds like.
The darkness sees right through me.
That's almost there, but that's perhaps a bit too much. So let's give that a go.
The darkness sees right through me.
Okay, so after trying various things and accidentally deleting notes and then realizing I'd done that and all of that, so I think I finally got something which doesn't sound too bad, something I can live with and something which is better than I started with. So I started off thinking that the issue was a loudness issue, but it seems to me now that it's more of a sort of tension issue and it sounds okay.
The darkness sees right through me.
Yeah, that's definitely more balanced. So wherever, if you look through the track, you're going to find little things like that which you're probably going to need to fix. But overall, it's pretty consistent. It's kind of unusual why sometimes it just goes off slightly wrong. But there's normally a way to fix it, and I think that's the important point. It just takes a little more time. So overall, I've been pretty impressed with this software, and I can see myself using it quite a bit. The only similar software I've heard of is Yamaha's Vocaloid, but I've not had a chance to use it. So if you have experience with that, then maybe you can let me know how it compares. But even if you don't, I'd be interested to know how it sounds to you. Also, if you know of any similar products, I'd be interested to find out about them. So that's it for now. So a quick YouTube reminder, please like and subscribe if you want to see more. Hope to see you on the next video, but for now, bye.
Dark moon